doing mostly CNS physiology, but we're going to be integrating it مع neuroanatomy برضه على أساس إنه you guys understand the tractology, but also at the same time you understand the physiology of it. In the next session, we'll focus on each one of the sensations specifically. So we'll do pain, we'll do temperature, and those things. تمام؟ في الليلة it's gonna be a very brief lesson. حيكون طويلة because mostly I think this one needs a lot of like time to process ويعني زول عشان تركز له في مخه. تمام؟ فهنتكلم عن sensory receptors, and then we're gonna be talking about the ascending tracts, and that is it. So we'll start by receptors, and as usual, if anyone has any question, just stop me at the AOP. So أول حاجة, what are receptors? أول حاجة the definition of the receptors. Receptors are basically specialized epithelial tissue that converts stimulus into electrochemical energy. تمام؟ يعني بيحولوا stimulus ده, which is أي حاجة, touch, pressure, temperature, pain, and so on, into electrochemical energy, which is basically, in other words, action potential. So they take energy بيحولوها ل action potential. And a process where a receptor changes the stimulus into energy بنسميه sensory transduction. So this is just basically the basic idea. All receptors have حاجة اسمها receptor potential. So basically it's the action potential of the receptor. And أهم حاجة we need to know about receptor potential is حاجتين. أول حاجة إنه it needs to hit the threshold for an action potential to happen. يعني a sub-threshold cannot trigger an action potential. So if the threshold is a specific amount, we need a specific amount of touch for the body to sense this touch. أي حاجة أقل منها you will not feel it at all. تمام؟ دي أول حاجة إنه it has a threshold. ثاني حاجة it's graded potential, not all or none. يعني شنو؟ يعني مثلا في nerves, other nerves يكون إنها حاجة اسمها all or none. Either you feel it or you don't feel it. لكن في receptor potential إن الحاجة اسمها graded potential. يعني إنه you can feel it in different levels. So لو حبشنا الزول حبة they'll feel it as حبة. حبشنا كتير they'll feel it as كتير, and so on. Make sense? So it's very important in receptor potential is graded, so it can specify an amount of يعني أيوة
الصوت كان بيقطع شديد. I can hear anything في receptor potential.
Okay, I'll repeat it again. Right. So receptor potential, we said it has two specific important details about it. The first thing is that it needs to hit the threshold for it to cause a stimulus. So for it to cause an action potential. So you need to have a specific amount of threshold for it to show. أي حاجة أقل من الثreshold ده, you will not get any action potential at all. لكن once you do get the threshold, the more action, the more stimulus you have, the more action potential it will generate. يعني it's a graded potential. So the more you induce it, the more action potential you create. عشان كده في senses, for example, pain, you can feel how bad the pain is, صح؟ يعني you feel into the light pain, the moderate pain, the severe pain, and so on, because the receptor potential is graded. تمام؟ طيب يلا بعد ذاك we're going to be talking about the types of receptors. يلا when it comes to types of receptors, there are a lot of classifications. يعني ما واحدة. However, I prefer the last classification. I'll give you all of the classifications and حركز في الأخير في حاجة. So first of all, in a traditional system, a traditional system goes by three. In the special senses, which are basically senses and special, which are hearing, taste, seeing, those ones. And it's cutaneous, so it's basically anything that's on the skin, touch, temperature, pressure, and those ones. And then عندنا الفيزرال. الفيزرال then specifically حاجات that are on the inside of the body, and they're usually they're not voluntary, so you can't specify what you're feeling. You don't feel the feeling. So for example, like a full bowel, bar receptors, these kind of things. The person who just joined us, أنا هعيد لك الكلام اللي قلناه سريع عشان ما تكون راح عليك, because we only did حاجة شديدة. First of all, we defined what receptors are, and we said that receptors are specialized epithelial tissue converts stimulus into electrochemical energy. قلنا إن electrochemical energy دي بتكون في شكل action potential. Okay. And then we said إنه الحاجة اللي هي process in which we turn the stimulus into energy بنسميه sensory transduction. تمام. بعد ذاك احنا we talked إنه الأكشن potential ده ذاته في الريسبتور عنده specific qualities أو specific يعني specific. So عندنا فيه حاجتين. أول حاجة الحاجة المهمة إنه it needs to reach a specific threshold for it to show. So معناته لو عندنا sub threshold ما بنحس بحاجة. And ثاني حاجة about it إنه it has to it's graded potential, not all or none. For example, in some systems or in some nerves, all or none potential. Either you feel the thing or you don't feel it. لكن في حالة receptor potential, you can once you hit the threshold, an increase, you can feel it. So if it's, for example, if the pain is light pain, you can feel it. It's light action potential. لو the pain زاد شديد, the action potential حيزيد. Make sense? تمام. شو المواصل في دورين زي حاجة في بالك دخلت متأخر ولا did you hear the recap؟ طيب I'll continue and then لو when she's back I'll explain to her برضه سريع تاني. طيب يلا قلنا هنا traditional classification of receptors. You know, either it's a special sense, so عندنا hearing, smelling, those kinds of things. عندنا cutaneous. Cutaneous is anything on the skin, so touch, temperature, pressure, so on. والvisual تكون حاجات on the inside of the organs. So for example, a GIT, a full stomach, or for example, the cardiac system, and baroreceptors, and so on. So technically, in visual, if you are not able to tell what the feeling is, you don't feel it. The body will react to it on its own. According to the site. According to the site, the receptors, which are basically for anything that's distant, a distant event. So for example, vision is a telereceptor. بنعمل telereceptors لأنه أنت لما تكون الstimulus ما actually touching you, you just see حاجة بعيدة. And then exterior receptors, which are anything that's on the immediate external environment. So for example, touch, pressure, temperature. Then interior receptors, which are anything on the internal environment, the baroreceptors and chemoreceptors, ones that detect the change in position. So if you move a joint or if you move a finger or so on, they can detect what position you're in. تمام؟ According to structure, yeah, the structure it's a bit weird, and I think it would help a lot if you guys can go and take a look at a picture of it. Like a free nerve ending, so the nerve beside كده ما عندها أي حاجة. Either encapsulated, so it has an capsule around it, or it has an expanded tip. So for example, it would have an expanded tip at the end of it, or it would be a sensory organ, and sensory organs have specific specialized types of nerve endings. هنتكلم عنها specifically لما نيجي نخش في special senses. تمام؟ So according to the structure of the nerve, ممكن نسميها free nerve ending. Free nerve ending specifically بلاقونا في temperature والpain. لأنه شنو؟ هم ما عندهم أي حاجة they're just detecting الحاجة طوال. Encapsulated ديل بنلاقيهم أكثر حاجة في التوتش ديل. لأنه الكابسول is formed in a way that can detect touch. تمام؟
The capsule is what? The last thing.
Encapsulated بيكونوا for touch, specifically touch و pressure والحاجات دي. I'm gonna mention the names of the receptors كده اللي قدام. And they're specific for touch and pressure.
Okay.
The last classification, آخر classification is according to the type of stimulus. يعني الستيمولس اللي عندنا ذاته كان نوع شيء. And then عندنا فيهم mechanoreceptors. الميكانوreceptors دي حاجة is mechanical energy. Mechanical energy دي يعني شنو؟ يعني touch, pressure حاجة زي دي. تمام؟ هنا ثاني الphotoreceptors. الphotoreceptors are for so vision. عندنا chemoreceptors are anything that's chemical, so it includes taste, smelling اللي هو olfaction أو blood pressure اللي هو chemoreceptors في blood pressure ده. ثاني عندنا thermoreceptors. thermoreceptors detect the temperature. وآخر حاجة عندنا حاجة اسمها nociceptors. nociceptors they're responsible for pain. وبرضه if the temperature is really bad يعني temperature لو زادت شديد you start feeling pain. So the nociceptors there for extreme pain, extreme temperature. تمام. يلا عندنا حاجة ثانية اسمها polymodal nociceptors. يلا لما نقول polymodal يعني شنو؟ polymodal دي يعني it can respond to any form of stimuli أو a combination of stimuli. يعني شنو؟ البين receptors دي ذاته لو التوتش زاد شديد يعني البريشر قوي شديد حيحس ببين، أو لو التمبرتشر زادت شديد حيحس ببين and so on. عشان كده بيسموهم polymodal because they can respond to more than one type of energy as long as the energy ده causes pain. تمام؟ You guys need me to repeat the receptor types? Let's do
مرام يعني هسه for example the pressure عنده receptors حقته for example baroreceptors, but then if it increases الريسبتور الثانية اللي هي polymodal دي هي will take a stimulation يعني.
البريشر لما نقول pressure receptors أنا ما قصدي البلود pressure I mean البريشر برا يعني if someone squeezes your hand for example
Oh yeah,
pressure
that's
صح؟
what I mean.
يلا if someone squeezes your hand really tightly درجة عالية شديد you're gonna start feeling pain صح؟ That's because you're triggering the polymodal nociceptors. So they basically react not just to pain, but to extremes of other stimuli.
Okay, thank you.
So يعني we're gonna discuss برضو الكلام ده again in more details next lecture. هنتكلم عن البين براوي as a complete topic. طيب يلا نبدأ. احنا هنا when we're sending a stimulus في action potential, النيرفز والبرين can detect 4 حاجات which we call them sensory coding. يعني شنو؟ يعني انت جاك pain. How are you gonna know it's pain? And where is the pain? How bad is the pain? And how long did the pain last? دي 4 questions البرين بيسألها فالأكشن potential بتوديها له. تمام؟ So بنسميه sensory coding. يعني in other words sensory coding is that when you convert a receptor stimulus to a sensation, يعني لما يجينا الأكشن potential ده نجي نترجمه ل sensation عشان نفهم ده شنو. We need to understand 4 things or 4 elements اللي هم الموداليتي أو type of energy, اللوكاليتي أو location, intensity القوة حقته, and the duration, so how long did it take. يلا each of them we detect it in a specific way. هنبدأ بالموداليتي أو type of energy. So الموداليتي depends on the type of energy transmitted by stimulus, and the idea is that as long as idea is إنه a type of receptor هيورينا type of energy صح؟ لكن عندنا حاجة specific اسمها adequate stimulus. The idea of an adequate stimulus is that إنه each receptor is most sensitive to specific type of energy. يعني for example a touch receptor is more specific to mechanic energy. Our eyes are more specific to light and so on. So each receptor عنده adequate stimulus يعني عنده a particular form of energy that is most sensitive to. تمام؟ بسبب الحاجة دي معناته احنا جاتنا response من ال eye it's probably light and so on. Make sense? So each receptor عنده a specific form of energy it responds to.
مرام صوتك شوية قاعد يقطع ما سامعنا كويس.
Can I repeat? Sorry. That basically what I said was that إنه حاجة اسمها adequate stimulus. The idea of an adequate stimulus إنه a specific type of energy that is more sensitive to the receptor. So a receptor is يعني الثreshold حقه is met easily by only one type of energy. لكن that doesn't mean إنه الريسبتور ده ما بتشيل أي other type of energy ever. يعني ولكن it can respond to other stimuli but the threshold is much higher. يعني it's ممكن إنه الريسبتور يشيل energy مع حقته لكن only if it's an energy in an extreme form. تمام. So usually we need a specific type of energy for the receptor عشان نعمل له responding. تمام. So in other words each receptor عنده specific type of energy هيسوقه. عشان كده لما يجيك energy impulse from this receptor انت تكون عارف الانرجي دي نوعها شنو. make sense؟
I'm sorry بس الصوت قاعد يقطع شوية. ما أعرف عندي بس ولا نازل تاني قاعد يقطع عندي.
اوكي. سامعين انتوا؟ طيب آخر حاجة سمعتها شنو؟ اسمعيني برضه. طيب I'll keep going لكنه في حاجة كلموني عشان أعيدها عليكم. تمام. So عندنا ال location of the location of the sense. تمام. يلا اللوكيشن حقه هنعرف كيف. نعرف اللوكيشن بحاجة اسمها mechanism of inhibition. the idea of the mechanism of inhibition is شنو؟ let's say أنا ضربت الزول ده هنا. تمام. بيقوم الحتة دي it gets activated لكن أي حتة surrounding it would get inhibited. تمام. so يعني الحتة دي كلها بيحصل لها inhibition و only the red remains activated. So because of this بيحصل inhibition of the lateral and peripheral parts والcenter بيكون ما inhibited. فبقوم ال brain can easily localize the area of the damage or the area of the injury. make sense؟ يعني الأول ما تتضرب في حتة معينة ولا تحبش زول في حتة معينة الarea دي it works but everything around it gets inhibited so that you cannot accidentally think الفيلم ده من الحتة دي. والحاجة اللي احنا بنسميها a law of projection which basically means إنه okay. law of projection basically means إنه an area of only the area اللي جاي منها الانرجي هي الاريا اللي بنحسبها. I'll repeat it again. So basically عندنا location بنعرفها كيف؟ بنعرفها بحاجة اسمها inhibition. الميكانيزم of inhibition ده كيف؟ إنه الاريا اللي في النص اللي هي فيها البين أو فيها التاتش أو فيها السنس ده هي بتكون active. أي حتة حوالينا بيحصل لها inhibition. تمام؟ يعني اللاترال edges والحتة اللي حوالينا تبقى inhibited while السنتر ده بيكون شغال. عشان كده لما النص يجيبوا الامبulses هتجيبوا الامبulses من حته واحده بس هي السنتر اوف الاريشن او السنتر اوف الضربه دي. make sense؟ اوكي تمام. ده كده احنا نقدر نعرفه اللوكيشن اوف الانجري او اللوكيشن اوف السنسر. يلا الثالثه هي الانتنسيتي. يعني جات الستيمولس قوي ولا قوي how strong is it. يلا الانتنسيتي دي بنعرفها كيف؟ اننا either by response amplitude يعني إذا الحاجة حصلت دي كانت بوتر شنو أو ال frequency of action potential generated. So if you frequently touch ورا بعض so بيحصل a lot of action potentials ورا بعض ال brain will translate that as a lot. أو لو ال number of receptors activated يعني شنو؟ يعني ممكن نقول إن إحنا هبشنا ريسبتور واحد بس لكن في الريسبتور الواحد ده هبشناها بقوة قوية شديد فهيقوم the person would feel it as intense. أو ممكن يكون it's one receptor لكن we keep hitting it. make sense؟ يعني you keep hitting the same receptor so it generates a lot of action potentials ورا بعض. So that way the person would also feel like إنه it's intense. يمكن ذاتها ال frequency of action potentials دي ما تكون on the same receptor on a lot of receptors حوالينا. So يعني ضربنا 10 receptors at the same time. So So if you hit 10 receptors at the same time, برضه the brain is gonna translate it as intense pain أو intense touching أو intense whatever it is. Make sense? So it's either one receptor, like the strength of it, أو how many action potentials per receptor, أو amount of receptors activated. الثاني عندنا آخر حاجة هي duration. The duration is just simply the time from the start to the end of the response. هذا كلام كثير يعني. If you if I touch you and then after 3 seconds I let go, you'll feel the pain for 3 seconds. Touch it for 3 seconds. However, if a constant stimulus is applied for a long time, بيحصل حاجة اسمها إنه ال frequency of the action potential بتقل over time. So in other words, بيحصل adaptation. So if I touch you, I keep my hand there for a while. In a few seconds, you start to forget that I'm touching you. Make sense? So عندنا, due to that, we classify a senses into 4 based on its ability to adapt. So عندنا some that are easily adaptable, and there are some that are not easily adaptable. So, for example, نبدأ rapidly adapting. Our rapidly adapting بنسميهم برضه phasic receptors. Huh? So, if they're phasic, they adapt really fast. يلا, and rapidly adapting then, even specifically alpacinian corpuscles, which are basically for touch. تمام, اسمهم alpacinian corpuscles وهم للtouch. So معناتها الtouch gets very fast adaptation. If you touch something and you keep your hand there, actually you'll no longer feel it. So for example, if you sit on a chair, أول ما you sit, you feel that you sat on the chair. But in a few seconds, you forget that you were sitting on the chair. So you don't feel the chair on you anymore. So the idea is that, you know, and touch is the most rapid adaptation. ثاني slow adapting. Slow adapting then the pressure is proprioception. So pressure and proprioception, they take a bit of time for you to get used to it. I think you still do. It's a tonic. Yalla, for example, if you sit down, at first you'll feel that you're sitting down, that your knees are pointing in which direction. Actually, you'll forget. So it takes a bit more time than touching. Intermediate. So intermediate deals with temperature, so they do take time, but they also adapt, and it takes a lot of time. آخر حاجة عندنا non-adaptive, which never adapt, زي pain. So even if you've experienced pain 300 times, you'll still feel the pain again and again and again. You never stop feeling pain, صح? If the cause of the pain is still there, you'll still feel the pain.
لكن يا مرام مش like a certain type of pain. If it was like intense, it could kill the receptors ولا حاجة زي كده. It's just hypothetical.
I think you mean like, you know, stimulus that is damaging the receptor. Well, I think it can either make it more sensitive to pain زيادة كمان, أو ممكن يخلوه you don't feel it anymore. If the stimulus can damage the pain receptor, either يكون عندك extreme pain يعني أقل هبشة بس ده pain, أو يكون you can't feel the pain, right? ممكن. لكن it's not adaptation, ده كدمج عميق. So when you say it's adapting, it's حاجة normal. ده بيكون damage. Make sense?
Yes.
تمام, perfect. يلا, بعد ده احنا going to be talking about the speed of the nerve fibers. يلا, nerve fibers they ذات عندهم different speeds, and it depends on the amount of myelin on the nerve. فعندنا fast اللي هو زي type A, عندنا type B which is intermediate, و type C which is slow. يلا, type A then are the fastest, وجواهم في 4 subtypes. عندنا A alpha, A beta, A gamma, و A delta. الimportant to know إنه A alpha دي أسرع واحدة. تمام؟ ثاني عندنا type C is the slowest. Why? Basically, as I said, it depends on the amount of myelin. So as you can see, اللي هو السلو ده ما فيه أي myelin. As you can see, it has no myelin. So it's slow. a type of an pain. Like, talking about, if your body transmits the pain really fast, it'll hurt you a lot. So it transmits it slowly. في برضه at the same time البين ذاته is transmitted by الفاست ones اللي هم ايه ديل، على اساس انه شنو البين ما يجي كله مره واحده. quickly يجيك بين ينبهك انه في بين، لكن بعد البين هيجيك بالراحه afterwards. make sense؟ يعني if you hit your leg you'll feel the first impulse ده يوريك انه في pain, and then بعدك slowly هيجيك البين. So in other words pain is transmitted by two, by a slow axis اللي هو type C ده اللي هو unmyelinated, وباي الhighly myelinated type A. تاني type B which is basically شوية myelinated شوية يعني it's myelinated لكن not strongly, وده بيكون basically for touch والحاجات دي. تمام. So again it's C and type A are really fast, they're myelinated. Type B myelinated لكن ما شديد. Type C are non myelinated. impulse مشي بشنو؟ we're gonna discuss that again in the next lesson. فحسي بس try to remember the idea of إنه type A is the fastest and it has the highest amount of myelin, while type C is the slowest and it has no myelin at all. Understand myelin and why it makes it faster, or do you want me to explain it? هنا النيرف impulse. والنيرف impulse هو action potential. المyelin is basically an insulator. So if you insulate the sheath or you insulate a nerve, it makes it faster. So it makes it easier for it to happen. Basically, an action potential would jump along a nodes around there. Just to recap. And so that way it will become a lot faster and it's insulated, so the energy not there, and at the same time it can jump and it can skip. لكن في حين إنه ما فيها myelin it's very slow, it will have to keep going. So it'll take a lot of time for it to go there. And at the same time, since it's not insulated, you can, and energy not to going as fast as it is.